channel. Today I thought it would be the perfect day to talk about a much requested video on vintage shopping in Paris and some of my favorite stores. I started vintage shopping in Paris, I want to say maybe like 8-ish years ago. Paris is like the perfect place for vintage shopping because you can find some really unique pieces. Not to say that I still don't shop at some of the luxury department stores like Le Bon Marché and Galeries Lafayette, like I still do, especially if I want like new items or I want to take advantage of the tax-free in one place because there's like a limited set minimum that you have to spend. So yeah, it's a lot easier to do that at luxury department stores. But for pre-loved items, the important thing to remember is that you don't get that tax-free benefit. I'm gonna walk through some of my favorite stores. There are a lot of stores that are actually on my list to check out, and I've saved them on a Google map. So I will share that link with you below in the description box. Maybe you've seen some of these, so I would love to know if there are other vintage shops that should be added to this list. Let's build this list up. Let's start off by neighborhood. So like the center part of Paris, so like St.Honoré, Place Vendôme, that area, like in the 8th arrondissement. One of my favorite places is Valois Vintage. They are on Rue de Saussaies, and from my most recent trip is this beautiful picotin. I love this bag. This is a size 18 with Epsom leather and palladium hardware. And I just really love this braided detail. It's just really unique, and I think that's really what drew me to it. I really like the Epsom leather because it helps keep its structure, whereas I think if it was in Togo or Clémence, the slouchy look is great, but I think it would not hold its structure, if that makes sense. And this is like new, which is crazy. I just took the dust bag out, and this is a Valois Vintage dust bag. They didn't have the original Hermès one, but they do have their own dust bags that they give you. When you're doing vintage shopping in Paris, or honestly anywhere, you want to make sure they have a really good process for authenticating their items. We've heard about a lot of counterfeits or dupes or replicas for Hermès bags, not just Hermès, Chanel, Dior, I mean all of the designer luxury brands. Perhaps you're like in the store and you really want to just have that peace of mind. Wouldn't it be great to be able to just take some photos with your phone, send it to a service, and then they can reply to you pretty much within the hour? Well, that is possible, and I'm excited to partner with LegitGrails on this portion of the video. I know many of you also like to shop pre-loved, so I really wanted to share the service with you because even though this is sponsored, personally, like if I can just do it from the comfort of my phone within 30 minutes as well is really just amazing. So LegitGrails is an online authentication service for luxury items. They'll authenticate bags, clothes, shoes, accessories, etc. And they can authenticate your items in like 30 minutes. You actually have different options to choose from. You can choose 30 minutes, 2 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours. They authenticate over 250 brands. So Louis Vuitton, Hermès, Dior, Chanel, etc., etc. So like all of those brands, and you can see a list of them on their site. And the authentication goes through 2 checks. So the first check is with AI, and then a brand expert. So I like that there's like 2 different layers. You've got advanced technology with AI, but then on top of that, you have a human behind it that can also just double check that authenticity. So with those 2 layers, you really have that extra peace of mind that it is truly an authentic item. All right, so let's go ahead and authenticate this beauty. We are going to choose Hermès, and we want the authentication service in 30 minutes. So now we need to upload photos, and you'll see here step-by-step like instructions, which is really helpful, and they even tell you what types of photos to upload. So like an overall picture, the brand logo inside, and they have great examples here to make it a lot easier. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So we're gonna go ahead and submit it. Put in your payment details, and then you hit submit, and then you wait. So you get updates over email. I will report back as soon as we have a response from LegitGrails. All right, so 30 minutes have passed, and I just got a response back from LegitGrails, and the outcome is that it's authentic, which is great. They also provide some like detailed findings about the pictures that they examined that I sent to them. So they're saying that it passed the authentication check because the stitching is tight, straight, and evenly placed with no loose threads or fraying. The thread color blends seamlessly. The branding is crisp and clean. The logo is perfectly placed and aligned. So I just like that not only do they just give you the checkbox of it's authentic, they're also giving you why they came to that conclusion and just the things you should be looking for when you are purchasing a designer item. And they also include the authenticity certificate in this email. So there it is. I just love having that peace of mind. Also, if you're thinking about reselling the item in the future, I think it's helpful to have this authenticity certificate from a trusted source. I have peace of mind, good to know, and I'm really glad that I also now have an authenticity certificate to accompany it. So I definitely recommend you taking advantage of this service the next time you are shopping Preloved. Here is a promo code that they have kindly given me to share with you for 15% off. And again, this is just a very simple, easy way to get that peace of mind, especially when we're spending this large amount and investing in great quality designer brands. Let me know what you think, and thank you to LegitGrails for sponsoring this portion of the video. Next up on our vintage shop tour of Paris, there is I guess a company that has several boutiques in the city called Opulence, Luxury, and Vintage. So they actually have 4 locations. I've been to 3 of them. So the first one that we went to was actually on Ile Saint-Honoré. My friend that I was with at the time found a beautiful classic Chanel classic flap. So like with the beautiful lambskin and the 24 karat gold hardware. And she found it for a really great deal, especially considering what the prices are today for Chanel bags. And it was in really great like vintage condition. I wish I had a photo of it, but I don't. It was a very like cute little store, and the shopkeeper was really, really kind and sweet. Rue Réaumur had some really gorgeous pieces. I was debating on a Chanel vanity bag for like toiletries and makeup and so forth, but I decided to pass on it. And then the one on Rue Danielle Casanova. That is where I've gotten a couple of pieces that you've already seen me wear on Instagram. So let me show you those pieces. Okay, so I clearly love my blazers. The first one is this gorgeous Prada blazer. It is in impeccable shape. It's basically like new. I just love the detail of the collar. It's very unique. It has the cloth, like the matching fabric buttons, which I really think helps make it more streamlined and seamless. This black stitching detail really helps accentuate the waist as well. So it really is very well designed. I have styled this actually Also with a belt, because belts and blazer, or belts over blazers, are really in right now, but it does look great without a belt too. And then this one, I wear it so much, especially over the holidays, but this is kind of like my party blazer. This is a Thierry Mugler. It has this very pretty flower detail. It has it there, and it also has it on the sleeve here. This collar is absolutely gorgeous. I like the asymmetry of this. And then it has a belt that is attached. You just grab it and then you cinch it around your waist. And it really creates this beautiful silhouette. So I tend to wear it with leggings a lot because this is just long enough to cover my butt. You don't know that you're wearing leggings. I bought these two in 2023. I think one was $250 and the other one was like $400 or something like that. Next up is Les Folies d'Eugénie Paris. I first stumbled upon them when we were in Nice last year, and I ended up purchasing these gorgeous Chanel ballet flats. This screams Côte d'Azur, like the south of France. It has sort of like that mariner's vibe, but is also very classic Chanel. I like the white piping. It gives a little something to what could just be a simple black ballet flat. These I found for like maybe 400 euros. So I decided to go check out their store also in Paris, and they had a beautiful selection. I loved the way they decorated their store. It was easy to see all the pieces, and the shopkeepers were just very helpful, very kind. They had a really, really good selection throughout. A lot of Chanel, a lot of Hermès. I would definitely check them out. Now, the next stores we're going to look at are in the Marais area. Now, Le Marais has tons of vintage boutiques. They have a bunch of stores, all kind of like together, all along the same street. It's Rue de Turenne. When we were walking down, I did have some shops on my Google map to hit up, but we stumbled across even more vintage stores that didn't have a Google map listing, I guess. So it is definitely a great place to just wander around. If you're in a pinch, you're not in Paris for that long, and you just want to hit up as many vintage stores as possible, Rue de Turenne in Le Marais is the place to go. We walked into the room first on Rue de Turenne, and it was just very polished. It looked like everything was new. It was very hip. They had this beautiful Chanel bag. It was like a Swarovski crystal bag. It was like 10,000 euros, definitely out of budget, but it was exquisite. And you could tell it was probably just a collector's item for the previous owner. They didn't really wear it. I don't know. It was stunning. I remember there was like a Versace suede jacket that I looked at. I think it was around the 300 euro mark, 380, something like that. I thought it was beautiful, and just the way it was structured. Everything was in really good condition. You could barely tell that they'd been pre-loved, so I definitely recommend checking out the room. Now, what I didn't know is that they had a second location, and I just randomly stumbled upon that when I went back to Le Marais just to do like some content. So I walked in, the store is a little smaller, it's kind of like a hole in the wall, and they had a beautiful selection of Max Mara coats. Actually, a bunch of different coats. And that's where I found the beautiful Max Mara burgundy plum colored coat that I have definitely featured a lot in my Paris vlog. I have it in a closet in another room, but it's hard to get. It is basically in really good condition, very good condition, and that I think was only like 300 euros, which you can kind of see like this theme of a lot of like coats, blazers, things like that in that like 300 euro-ish price point. I think is a really good deal, again, because that coat, it probably should have been like priced at maybe 12 to 1500 euros. It probably was like 3,000 euros and up, brand new. I just couldn't say no. It was just such a good deal, and it looked beautiful. And it still looks beautiful, so I'm really glad that I brought that home with me. And the next one, this is a very small place. I've been there a couple of times. This is called Dépôt Vente Deluxe. Very classy, very cute. It's got like this gray outside, and then inside everything is just like very nicely laid out. When I first found that place, I ended up getting a vintage Dior bag, like a white bag. I no longer have it. I decided to let it go. It was like a really good like evening bag for like the summertime, something like that. It didn't really fit a lot, so after a while I realized I just wasn't using it as much as I had hoped, so it was best to let it go. However, I also ended up finding this really pretty Hermès necklace, and it's just a little charm with Hermès Paris on it. It doesn't tarnish. Like, I've had this for many years and it still looks very bright and very shiny. I do have to be careful with my hair getting caught in it, so I tend to only wear this if I'm wearing my hair up, just to avoid that. Cute, simple piece that brings me joy. And then we went to this place called the Parisian Vintage. It was on Rue Saint-Claude. This store definitely felt very modern, sleek. If it didn't have Parisian Vintage, like vintage on the store name on the outside, I don't think we would have known that it wasn't like its own brand of clothing. So yeah, we walked in, they had some beautiful shoes, dresses, a little bit of everything. My friend who I was with this past trip, she found this beautiful Louis Vuitton trench coat. It was stunning, and it was basically in like new condition as well. They even also had a really good men's section, I believe. So if you're looking for men's vintage designer items, it's a good place to check out. The first vintage store that I'd ever come across in my trips to Paris was the Dépôt Vente Luxe Passy. So this is in the 16th arrondissement, and Passy is actually the neighborhood that I used to live in high school. And I stumbled upon it when I was revisiting my neighborhood. So I went in, and it's on Rue de la Tour, and their inventory was just amazing. I honestly probably spent like a good couple of hours in there, and I ended up finding two pieces from Chanel. One of them I still have, the other one I don't. I decided to let it go and to sell it. The first piece was this gorgeous kind of like mustard color cardigan. I don't know, the color really drew me, and I loved the gold button detail on this mustard color yellow. I wore it probably for a good few years, but as I've been really like discovering my style and realizing that it's easier for me to style neutrals, I just wasn't wearing it as much anymore, and I really wanted to pass it on to someone who would wear it. And then the next piece I do still have. Let me go get it. So the next piece is this gorgeous Chanel blazer. I was really drawn to the leather and tweed combination. I just feel like it is such a unique design. I remember when I bought it, it was also Paris Fashion Week, and one of my friends from San Francisco was there, and she had an extra ticket for a show that she had been invited to. So I went with her, and I ended up wearing this. So yeah, definitely check out the Dépôt Vente Luxe in Passy. Generally, that neighborhood, it's also very residential. So there aren't a lot of tourists that spend a lot of time in the 16th. You can probably find some beautiful things that residents in that area have been wearing and then consigning and so forth. So spend an afternoon at least like just checking out some of these consignment stores on the 16th arrondissement. I haven't yet checked out any others there, but they're on my Google Map list and you'll see that. Now, there were a few others that were just like okay, or maybe we just needed more time to really sift through it. I'll mention them here, but I wouldn't necessarily like prioritize them unless you have a good amount of time in Paris to spend. So one of them was called Citizen Concept Store. This was on Rue de Thorigny, also in the Marais area. This probably was the most packed place of designer items. You would need some time to sift through everything. I'm sure you can find a really good gem in there. I just personally felt a little bit overwhelmed. It definitely had like a lot of things. So if you've got time, definitely check it out. Odetta Vintage, this was a very small little place. I think their prices were still a little bit high, and they didn't have as many like, I guess, special pieces. So it was okay, but nothing to really write home about, in my opinion. And then Sissy's Corner. This place was definitely interesting. Had, again, lots and lots of inventory. They had lots of clothing. They had a lot of like seasonal pieces when it came to like handbags and things like that. Not as many of like the classic ones. And very vintage pieces. Some of these were quite old, some of them pretty worn. So it was one of those things where you find a unique piece, and if you're willing to take the time and invest in like restoring it, this place is a good one to look at. So yeah, I would love to know if you've been to any of these. If you found anything special from any of them, definitely share in the comments below. We'd love to hear about it. And if there are other vintage stores that you would recommend checking out, add it below, and let's add it to the Google Maps list that I will also share down below. So I hope you found this video helpful and that you enjoy your next trip to Paris and vintage shopping. I'm going to share another video of some luxury finds that I found in my last trip. A lot of these pieces are included. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like. And I encourage you to subscribe and click on the notification bell so that you receive alerts whenever I upload new videos. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next one.